England reached the semi-finals of the European Championships, many thanks to Arsenal's very own star boy. Meanwhile, both Gabriel and Martinelli return home as a disgraced Brazilian side are out of the Copa America. We've got some loan news and transfer news to discuss in today's, you'll be unsurprised to learn, the Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Join you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. I'm hoping that the audio's all right. I know that maybe at the start it wasn't great. I'm hoping it's picked up for you now. Yeah, you know what it's like. We're in the car. We're in the New Forest. I'm on holiday. I'm providing you as best of content as I feasibly can. Whilst being away as well. I think I've managed to get a better microphone location than the last show. Last time, as I said, it was on kind of down on the gear stick. Now it's being kind of rested on the door handle, and I'm hoping that that's getting a bit better audio-wise. So do let me know in the chat box if you can hear me clearly and crisply, as much as feasibly possible, of course. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Hope you're doing good. And well, I've also got the camera situated on the dashboard, so forgive me if I continue to look downwards at the actual screen that's below where the camera usually is. I usually have a camera like really where I'm looking, but it's slightly further higher up this morning, just so you don't see my double chin as much, basically. But good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Good morning to Paul. Good morning to Stephen, Martin, Jose, Ryan. We've got Paul. We've got Louis, we've got Runges Cows, Aaron, we've got Jean, we've got Temi, Tabani, Angela, Moma, we've got Matt G and P Sharp and Roy and Steve, we've got Barry, Vivian, GZ4, and plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. You are incredibly appreciated. If you could ever be so kind to drop a like on the video and help us to reach 1K every single day. We managed to do it yesterday, so thank you so much for that, especially considering, obviously, the connectivity, the audio, the visuals aren't always at their usual standards. So thank you for the very kind support. I am also suffering horrendously with hay fever. You know I suffer with it anyway, but I'm now in a field full of grass and pollen and deers and horses and dogs, which I'm also allergic to. So be forgiving if I sniff or if I need to take a drink partway through this show, because I am in like the worst environment for my allergies this morning. But thank you for being so patient and understanding with today's show. Let's jump into today's stories, shall we? We start with Bukayo Saka and England. England beating Granit Xhaka's Switzerland on penalties after a 1-1 draw following 120 minutes of action. I watched this game in a pub here down in the New Forest with my wife's cousin's boyfriend, and had a lovely time actually enjoying the game. Watched it with some other locals in the area, and it was frustrating, as it always is, watching England. I found myself tweeting throughout the game from my personal account, just getting increasingly frustrated. Saka was billed to be playing left wing back. It turned out, of course, that he continued to play on the right-hand side, despite all of the talks around it. Quite unbelievable that there can be so many reports saying that he's going to start in one position and then starts elsewhere. Something of a double bluff, maybe, and like some not false reporting, just like what they've been told has clearly been changed either last minute or, of course, was a bit of a bluff. And it was, of course, a dominant performance, but one that ultimately Switzerland played very well in as well. They were still very offensive and attacking and deserved their goal, I thought, when it came. But Bukayo Saka popping up with the equaliser in the latter stages of the game. England then couldn't capitalise like they did against Slovakia and had to again go to another penalty shootout in which they were perfect. Shout out, of course, to Jordan Pickford for saving Manuel Akanji's first effort, which turned out to be the only penalty that would not be scored throughout the shootout. But the five scorers, of course, for England, all picking up very much needed, very important goals. Shout out to Ivan Toney. I know that, you know, I'm not his biggest fan in terms of a potential signing, but that is a hell of a technique to be able to turn around, walk up to the penalty spot, not look at the ball, and strike it into the bottom left-hand corner. Amazing stuff, and a very clippable viral moment for Toney. And I would really be thinking about starting him or Ollie Watkins over Harry Kane at this point, because I just can't understand why Foden and Kane are still on the field and still starting games, because they have been so entirely lacking in any kind of impactful meaning to games. Yes, Kane scored against Slovakia in added time. I feel like any striker in that position, in that fortunate moment, would have done, but he was lacking in movement, lacking in directness, involvement, kept dropping into the wrong positions. It's really, 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 really poor. And of course, Southgate just, as I wrote a tweet yesterday, every single goal, every single win, every single good thing about this England team, if we win the Euros, all of that is in spite of the restrictions that are bafflingly shackled to this England side by Gareth Southgate. Anyway. Now, with Bukayo Saka, of course, being the main hero, you would, of course, expected more so him to be celebrated in today's back pages. However, he isn't. I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed again as we talk about kind of how Saka is used in the media. Shout out to the Times, who have, of course, used the picture of Bukayo Saka with the headline "Nerves of Steel." But we've got the Sunday Mirror, we've got Daily Sport, the Sports Star, we've got the Mail, and we've got the Express. All sadly not highlighting Bukayo Saka as the main man, the main talking point. The Daily Telegraph as well, not all choosing instead to go with images, of course, of the penalty shootout celebrations, none of which actually you can see Bukayo Saka in. Like, I think it's fine if you're going to use kind of like a bigger picture of like all of the, the England players celebrating, but at least pick one where you can kind of see Saka. I know that he didn't run away with some of the players and actually kind of sat down on his knees, just kind of grateful. But to have just the Times of the back pages that I've seen personally, I think the Guardian as well maybe have also gone with Saka as well. But it's incredibly frustrating. I just want to see Saka celebrated. I cannot explain the narrative that goes behind that penalty shootout. Saka scores his penalty, which, of course, the moment there that we see of Saka scoring after 4 years ago, failing to score in the European Championship final, which preceded, of course, so much awful racist abuse towards Saka and Rashford and Sancho. The moment that he scored that penalty, which, by the way, I thought he scuffed ever so slightly, but it turned out to be just perfectly executed into the side netting. He won't care. I don't care, quite frankly. But the nerves of steel that the Times have gone with in their headline is just such a more perfect representation of what yesterday was for Saka. The big man popped up in the big moment and delivered for England, and that's what we needed, and that's what we ultimately got with Saka. And it's just a shame again that he's not personally, for me, being celebrated enough by the wider media. Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel, as I mentioned, are both out of the Copa America. They will, of course, return to Arsenal after an extended holiday. They may indeed, of course, that means make the US tour much earlier, perhaps, than expected. Drawing 0-0 with Uruguay before going to penalties. Gabriel Martinelli scored his spot kick. However, it didn't matter because the following Uruguay penalty was scored, and at that point it had won the game for the underdogs. Although I say that Uruguay have been very good during this Copa America tournament, whereas Brazil have been exceptionally underwhelming. And Ronaldinho, of course, who has officially retired from watching Brazil, let alone just playing for them many years ago, will probably feel somewhat vindicated in his words as Brazil underperformed once again. It was a disappointing tournament for Brazil, but I guess Arsenal fans on the whole will just be happy that both Gabriel and Martinelli are going to be back with the squad very soon. A couple of transfer stories for you before we go to part two. There's news coming out of Spain that there will not be an obligatory purchase clause in Lokonga's loan move to Sevilla. We're expecting to hear some news on this story in the coming days as to whether or not these are accurate and kind of what type of deal we will see Lokonga move to Sevilla with. So let's wait and see for any updates on this. But it will be very disappointing if there is just an option to buy at a low figure. We want to see as much money coming from the Lokonga deal as possible to make up as much of the 15 to 17 million pounds that we paid Anderlecht for 3 years ago. But it may just be that it turns out to be a low move, in which case we'll wait and see what happens, and if indeed he comes back a better player with much more what's the word, I suppose, clout, reputation, desire, attractiveness for other teams to sign a bit. They only have one more year, of course, as well. So, yeah, let's wait and see. And the last story is the expectation that Calafiori and the deal to sign him from Bologna will hopefully be sorted next week. There is said to be, according to Fabrizio Romano, breakthroughs expected in talks, that there'll be a better understanding between Bologna and Arsenal as to the structure of that deal. It's being complicated by the fact that Basel have a considerable release clause between 40 and 50%. Sell-on clause, which of course means that any figure that Arsenal pay to Bologna, nearly, if not half of it, will be going to the Swiss side, which of course means that the price has been inflated somewhat for Arsenal. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you want to bring in a player. Basel have allowed Bologna to sign the player, but at the same time, then they've been in a position where they can't kind of act upon it any more than they already have. But that's today's stories. Let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show, of course, where we tackle your questions and more in today's chat box. Again, massive thank you for those that are continuing to tune in and for bearing with the surroundings and audio and connectivity issues that will continue to suffer for the next few days whilst I continue this break away from the studio. But please do drop a like and please help us on our way to reaching 1K every single day. Let's jump into the chat box though, shall we, and tackle some of these comments. Runs with Cal says we don't need the mainstream media. We've got TGT. Let them write whatever nonsense they want. Mark says Saka put us in the position to be able to get those penalties and not a picture in sight from some fraudulent outlets, it seems. I wouldn't go that far, I think, but Mark, you're entitled to your opinion, of course. But I think that when it comes to I just want to see more appreciation for Saka. I just want to see an effort made to address some of the mistakes that have happened in the past. And, I think Darren Lewis, again, I go to Darren Lewis a lot because, as a colleague of mine at Reach and, somebody who works for the Mirror who's not afraid to, be critical, if you like, of the decisions to not highlight Bukayo Saka in the past. I mean, let's see if I can find the original tweet that he put out before, when previously talking about Bukayo Saka, because it was a really important, I thought anyway, it was a really, really important look into what I would say is necessary by the media to make that conscious effort to be more rewarding, more appreciative, more critical. Here it is. So on June 8th, Darren tweeted, "Just because I work in the media, it doesn't mean I can't acknowledge the concern about Bukayo Saka being used as the face of England's defeat and poor performance, despite other players performing worse across a number of platforms last night. If anything, it is even more my job, especially when he was A, a substitute, and B, one of the players targeted after England failed at the last Euros. It is a reminder that we need to think about everything put into the public domain, and I will continue to speak openly in public and in private about it. The days of black and brown fans remaining silent on issues such as this are thankfully behind us. If supporters of all races felt his, Rashford and Sancho's pain in 2021, we need to show we have learned from it this time around." And of course, Darren, who works for the Mirror and is a greater part of Reach, which is the company that I work for as well, at Football.London, we do need to be self-critical. We do need to be raising this issue. We do need to be able to raise our own concerns and talk about the need to highlight them. And once again, yesterday was a great opportunity for many outlets to celebrate Saka and Saka's involvement and heroics for England. And sadly, I just don't think it's necessarily been reflected enough. And I think that's the key point. Let's scroll up a little bit more. P Sharp says, "I'm so glad Kane had gone off so we can guarantee that he'd be off the back pages." I mean, to be fair, Tony came on and scored his penalty. And as I mentioned, it was a brilliant penalty. And that was really, really important. Pappy the Chappy says, "Is there any truth to the rumour that I am starting?" I love the start of this question already. Is there any truth to the rumour that I am starting? That the mystery German player is actually a mystery German speaker, and that he is actually Swiss, and that he is actually Granit Xhaka. I'm sorry, Pappy, but I'm afraid that I've heard nothing regarding the rumour that you have just started So you may end up being disappointed in that sense. Peter says, morning, Tom. Do you think Southgate was subbing Bellingham during the sub confusion, or do you think Bellingham's reaction changed Southgate's mind? Absolutely no idea, Peter. Because the ironic thing is I could not legitimately turn around to you and say, I have no idea. I have no idea. Or rather, I couldn't, turn around to you and say, I know categorically that it was one or the other. I don't know. I don't know if it was a mistake. I don't know if he changed his mind. It was very, very odd. And I don't really quite understand how it ended up happening. Ringside says, Tom, just apologise to the missus. She will let you back in the house. Trust me, mate. We're staying in this little pod thing, this glamping pod, if you like. And she's more than welcome for me to leave it for a while. So don't you worry, mate. I'm all good here. Satori says, hi, Tom, long-time listener, first-time live watcher. Is it true that we almost signed Antoine Griezmann? He's always been one of my favourite players. Antoine Griezmann was a player linked with Arsenal when he was at Real Sociedad. He was a player that was linked to Arsenal even when he was also at Atletico Madrid. I don't know how close Arsenal came to signing him many years ago, but Arsenal were definitely very, very interested in him at one point, especially I think when we were under Arsene Wenger. And I remember doing shows talking about it for some time. And yeah, I can't tell you categorically how close it was, but Arsenal were definitely interested in Antoine Griezmann at one stage. Franyard says it might be needless, but due to what happened at the last Euros, the redemption he has given himself is, of course, remarkable. Of course, talking about Saka. Ty says, hi, Tom. Now Germany are out. Who do you think the mystery German player might be? Every day I feel like I get asked about this. As I said, I don't know. I said keep an eye on the Bayern players. I think there's obviously a lot of movement there sometimes, but I don't know who it is. And Tony's asking, Tom, are we likely to hear more about the mystery German? Can you imagine if we don't sign any German player this summer now? Imagine we don't sign any. That would be so funny in some ways, because I don't think I would ever, and this is just a personal point of view, I don't think I'd ever put into a sphere that Arsenal was signing a mystery player of a certain nationality. It just comes across so baity. Like, I don't want to go down the whole clickbait route because, you know, in some ways I understand the processes there, but it's, yeah, I'm not so keen about that. I'm trying to think if I've ever even come close to saying anything such as that, but like a mystery, like it's not even a case of like Arsenal are interested in a player and they're looking in particular at some German internationals, or they're looking in particular at the Bundesliga. Like, I wouldn't see too much of a problem in that. I mean, I don't think you get in particular a nationality, other than England, of course, kind of focus, but certainly a league focus if you've got extensive scouting going on in that nation. But I think you're more inclined to, I mean, saying it's like, it was also kind of a claim that Arsenal will be signing a mystery German player. So it's we will wait. But there's no point asking me anymore because I don't know. I don't know who it is, and I don't know if it's even true or necessarily accurate. So it's just a bit of a weird one to be kind of putting out there, isn't it? Arsenal are going to sign a mystery German player, but other than that, no idea who. If you know they're signing a mystery German, and you know, because let's be honest, right? Where would that come from? I'm trying to get into the mindset of the person that would put information out like that in that format. I'm really trying to get my head into the headspace and thinking, if you're confident that it's a German international player, but you've not heard necessarily who the name is, or then I'd hold on to that information. I wouldn't be going, oh, Arsenal are going to sign a mystery German. I know it comes from, and it spawned from this weird video of the guy on the phone call to this guy about moving cars because his client signing for Arsenal, which, by the way, is a massive breach of customer confidentiality, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, I can't get my head around that. It's such a strange one. It's such a strange one. Imagine if it was Julian Draxler, says Tizer. That would be, I almost want that to be the case. I almost want that to be the case. GG says, Tom, you're at a Starbucks. What are you having? Probably just a tea and a cookie, to be honest, mate. I'm really not that exciting. I'm thankfully have a one-syllable name, so my name is very often spelled accurately. In fact, I don't think I've ever had it spelled wrong, which I know is not the case for many others. Ringstar says, I agree with you, Tom. There will be egg on a lot of faces. Big no doubts. The stories will spin to Arsenal changing their minds. Ugang says, the rumor seems to be fake, just a long clickbait for us. No names, no dates, no details. Obviously, I try and give you as much of a guide as I can when looking at rumors. I often give you the example of if, say, we're linked, say this is X player, and X player is a Spanish player. This is all hypothetical, so there's no mystery Spanish player. Just put that very clear. X player is Spanish. He plays in Spain, and he's linked to Arsenal. Let's say that the report is not a Spanish or English outlet. It's not in any way affiliated with either of the clubs. It doesn't give any information about the price tag. It doesn't give any specific details about a date. It's very hard to think that might, and there's lacking in credibility of previous track records to it as well. It's very hard to start believing those. And often some people will send me saying, Tom, you haven't covered this story in the show, or Tom, you didn't talk about this story. And my quick response to that is, well, there's a reason why I didn't, and the reason why I didn't was because I don't really give too much credit to it. I'm happy for you to ask me about it in part 2 of the show as we're doing now, but I'll only talk about it if I need to. Maximir says, hi Tom, have you heard about Arsenal signing a mystery Spanish footballer who is already a prodigy at 18 years of age? He's with the Spanish national team right now. No, Maximir, I haven't. Can't say I've heard about that at all, mate. I'm sorry. Marvin says, I would like Arsenal to sign a club like Como as an affiliate, loan out our youth players with valuable experience in coaching. If they make good, bring them back, and it solves our youth game time experience. Again, this comes back to the multi-club model, which I would be very keen for Arsenal to look into doing, because I think if we don't, we are going to start being left behind by other clubs. Sean says, we're getting that Fulham keeper Leno as a backup. I heard he's good. Imagine if it was Leno coming back as well. That would be rather amusing. Only a couple more questions before I'm gonna have to shoot off, I'm afraid. If you haven't dropped a like on the channel already, mate, please make sure that you do. And Goongang says here, 750 of you watching, less than 200 likes. We won't sign anyone until the ratio is better. There's over 800 of you watching across, 1,000 of you watching across all of our platforms. So thank you for that. Please make sure that you drop a like on the video. It's very much appreciated. Anne says, Tom, all of the disgusting comments Saka received 4 years ago have no right now to cheer his goal. And I saw Ed Aarons put a tweet out, which I responded to actually yesterday. Ed Aarons, of course, of The Guardian, who, to my understanding and knowledge, did indeed include an image of Bukayo Saka in their publication today. I will double check that. I'm pretty sure that The Guardian did do a lot of focus on Bukayo Saka. But just a quick, let me see if I can find the tweet that I found from Ed Aarons. Scrolling a little bit more. Yes, Ed Aarons, who is covering Arsenal for The Guardian a lot, as well as being a football writer there in more of a broader perspective, says, where are all the racists who questioned England's black players now? Saka and all the other penalty takers provided the perfect answer to those idiots. To which someone who I replied to said, very weird tweet. I mean, if you're replying to that type of tweet and saying very weird tweet, all you're doing is exposing yourself at this point. I mean, why on earth would anyone not look at what Ed has tweeted and think, yeah, fair enough? If you were one of those people that were sending racist abuse to Bukayo Saka after the European Championship final in 2021, where are you now? It's a very valid question. Sadly, these people exist. Sadly, there's a worrying level of it in the UK, and it seems to be on the increase. But hopefully the things can be done in the next few years or so to try and remedy that problem as best we can. You're never going to eradicate it everywhere, and entirely, sadly, is my belief. I just don't think it's feasible, but you can do plenty more to be stricter, harsher, and social media companies as well have got big job on their hands to try and help that at the moment. There doesn't seem to be too much willingness from the likes of Elon Musk to do anything much about that on X, but other platforms, certainly there is more being done, and hopefully more can be done, and we will continue to do more here to make the issue more into the mainstream. But thank you so much to everybody that's tuned in for today's show. I really appreciate your time, as always. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you like and subscribe. Turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for more updates and hopefully some more interesting news surrounding the Gunners. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.